everyone, my name's Morgan Malcolm and this is my channel Love Where You Live. So today I'm going to show you guys how to remove old carpet in an old tongue and groove or a quick connect wood floor so that we can install a new one. So I'm going to break these videos up into 2 or 3 videos because they would be super long if I didn't. So today is just the demolition and preparation. Again, we're going to be removing carpet, the padding underneath, the tack strip that they use for that, and I'll show you what all of that is and the tools that we use to help get all of that stuff off the ground. And then we're going to move into this kitchen area where there was a wood floor already down. It was a tongue and groove or a quick connect. So they're floating floors, which means they aren't actually connected to the ground. So it wasn't glued on or nailed to the actual cement below it. So it makes it a little easier to remove, but they're tricky to start. So when we go over that, I'll show you all of the tricks we use to get everything off the ground and what you need to do to prepare to install a new wood floor. Now, when you're looking at this, when I'm removing the old wood floor, the old wood quick connect floor, you may think to yourself, why are you removing that? Why not just add to it? Well, there's a couple of reasons you don't want to necessarily just add to what's existing. First of all, when you had a wood floor down, it gets used, it gets worn, sun can change color, lights can change the color of it. So even if you get the exact same type, style, color, model, whatever it is, the exact same one, there's a chance that it's not going to match up correctly, and you'll be able to notice a difference in where the old one was to the new one. It is much better to just start over and have it go all new, all installed at the same time and correctly done. The other reason you don't want to do that is with how these connect, it would be working backwards. So you connect from one end, and where this floor ended was actually at the base that would have been against a wall. So there was nothing to connect to. You would have had to be working backwards the whole way. So it's not really possible. You would have had to have some type of seam and try to butt it up, and it just wouldn't have worked correctly. So we just decided to remove everything and start over. So right now we're gonna get started on showing you how to remove carpet and that quick connect wood floor. All right, let's get started. All right, so here is just the before. This is what the floor looked like in the kitchen. It's that wood quick connect right there and in the bathroom. And then this was the carpet in that main living area and dining area. Nothing really wrong with it, but just wanted to have solid wood throughout the main level. So to start this, you're gonna wanna grab pliers and just pull a corner of that carpet up, and you're just gonna yank it off. So I'll show you in a bit what that tack strip looks like, but that's basically what holds the carpet down. I like to cut it into smaller sections. It makes it easier to dispose of and move around so it's not so overwhelming. So here we just roll it up and then take it out to our bag stir, which I will also show you in a bit. So you're going to do that for the whole floor. You can see in the middle, it's actually not being held down by anything. Carpet is only held down on the exterior walls with that tack strip, so it's really easy to remove. Underneath that, you can see there is a padding on the floor, and that was a little bit more difficult to remove just because they glued it down in sections. So you pull it up and it comes apart in pieces, and that's not a big deal. Then you have to go through though and clean off the other sections so that you can put the floor down and have it be flush with the ground. Here's that tack strip. So it is nailed down to the cement, and then there are nails sticking up for the carpet to attach to, and it runs along the entire perimeter of the room. So you're gonna need to remove that, and this is how we're gonna do that. So I take just a little mini tool here, and you just go right at all of the nails. So it's a little mini crowbar, and at all the nails, bang it in, you pull them up. It's pulling up some of the cement, but that's not a problem. And you just get that tack strip off. Some of them are stuck in better than others, so you can tell there's going to be places where it's easier to get it off and harder. This is the top of it, and then the other side also has nails, so you have to be careful with these because it's on both sides. So you are going to go through and do this through the whole perimeter of the house or whatever area you're doing, and get all of those tack strips off. And you can see some of that padding's left over, so we also went through and just removed all of that as well to prepare for the next step, which would be the install. So I'll let you see this part. Just kind of work your way around, and it comes off in little strips.
And yep, just again, be careful because it's easy to poke yourself on all of this because it's nails on both sides. So underneath the padding and the carpet is just cement. So that's all there is on the bottom. Okay, moving on to the wood floors. You're gonna wanna use your crowbar and your hammers and get that trim piece off. It's the transition piece from the carpet to the wood. And then you can see here the floor is floating, so it's not connected, it's not glued or nailed down. So you can get a tool underneath it. We have a larger tool that's actually for the install of the wood floor, but it is metal. And we put that underneath, and then if you just stomp on the wood at the seam, so where it connects together, you can kind of start getting it to break apart. We're not keeping this, we're not reusing it, so we're breaking it apart as we go. You can see here the hardest parts are going to be right along the edges and the trim part, because when this was installed the trim had not been there previously, and we're not going to be removing all of the trim. It causes way too much damage to the walls and it's just really not necessary. So we're leaving the trim up, but getting around the wood is underneath it, so getting those pieces that are around the trim out are much more work. But it's not impossible. You can see we did it there. It's a lot easier if you can get some of the middle pieces out and then slide those pieces towards the middle. It comes out much easier and it doesn't damage anything. And then once you get towards the middle sections, it comes apart in larger chunks just because it isn't fully nailed down or glued down with anything. So it makes it much faster and much easier once you get to the middle. And underneath it is just... It's an underlayment, but it's basically just a little like plastic sheet kind of thing that protects the wood from the ground and kind of buffers it a little bit. There are different levels that you can get for cushion wise, and some are obviously the more thick it is, the more expensive it will be. So that's something you can decide later on when you are installing yours. But we're just going to continue with the removal of all of this. So the other items that make this a bit tricky are the appliances are still in. When this was installed the first time, there weren't any appliances in, so they went all the way from underneath the fridge and underneath the stove. So when we're going to be removing that as we kind of go. We'll move out the fridge and move out the stove and take all of those pieces out and then kind of put the fridge and stove back while we install it, and I'll show you a little bit of that. We also have to take off the toilet in the bathroom. So that is a whole other video that I did make, which I will include here. So this is what the floor looks like once it's cleaned. You just remove all of those little pieces that were glued down, everything else, vacuum it. You want to have it as clean as possible because anything left underneath that when you're installing the wood, you will notice. So this is what the wood looks like when it's delivered. It comes on a pallet and it's just in packages, and you order how much you need for your square footage. The first thing you need to do is take all of the wood out of the packages and lay them out in a pattern like this. It's a grid pattern. It allows air to get to all of it so it can acclimate. You want the wood to acclimate so that it doesn't either bulge or shrink after it's been in the house and installed. So you'd need to let it acclimate for at least 72 hours for this type of wood. Solid wood floor can go up to 7 days that it needs to acclimate. So that's one of the benefits of using this prefabricated kind of wood. So next is going to be putting down the mat that goes underneath it, the underlayment. So you're just going to, it comes in rolls, you unroll it and you lay it down and cut it to size. On the one side that I am on right now, it has a sticker, like a tape that you pull off, and then it sticks to the other piece on the other side of it, and so it connects together and holds it down. Ours was super curly, so we just used some of the pieces of wood to help hold that down so it stayed while we were installing the rest of it. And you just keep going around the whole room, cutting pieces as you get to those edges. So yeah, you definitely want a razor blade or an X-Acto knife or something like that. Then you can see us moving the wood over to the other side now so we can put the underlayment down where the wood had been sitting. This is the hard part about having it acclimate in the house because it's kind of always in the way. If you plan it right, you only have to move it like once like we did. So as we're installing it here, we just moved it to that one side so that it wasn't in the way anymore, and then we used it from there when we were putting all of the wood down. So here we're just going to keep going, installing all of this underlayment And once that's down, that's pretty much the end of the removal and the preparation for the next step, which would be installing it. So you can see that tube right there. Each one has a certain square footage, so you can figure out how much you need for your room. And when you're ordering all of this, they help you with all of that. So if you have questions on anything, bring the dimensions of your room to wherever you're ordering your wood from. If it's Home Depot or Floor and Decor or whatever other location it could be, just take all of your dimensions there so that you make sure you get the right amount. It is also ideal to do a little bit extra just because you're going to be cutting pieces and you want to have enough to fill in any place that you need. If you get just the exact square footage, it's not going to work because you have to cut some pieces. So yeah, get a little bit extra, and it's easier to have more and not need it than have to go back to the store and possibly order it. So our floor had to be ordered and it took a while to get here. So this is just what it looks like when you're doing an edge piece. You want to get it as close as possible to the edge. Make sure you don't cut your cabinets. Like I made sure I was not anywhere near that cabinet when I was cutting it. But along the floor, it's cement. So you can go right up in there and just use your X-Acto knife or razor blade and cut along there and make sure it's a nice tight fit there so that when you put the wood on, it's right in the right spot. So here I'm just deciding I want to have it be a smooth edge for the next piece that's going to be up there. So I just cut that. And that part's installed. So now we're going to move over to the kitchen. You can see we had pulled out that stove there to get the wood out. And the fridge is also pulled out a bit so that we could get behind those. And it is a bit tricky when you're doing the underlayment and the install with the appliances in, because you kind of have to move them as things go. You don't want to damage the underlayment. So we pulled it out a bit. We kind of looked at it. What we decided to do is wait till we had the floor installed up to that point, and then we could put the fridge and the stove on the wood instead of the underlayment, which would just rip. And then we could finish putting the underlayment behind it and the wood floor. This is what the bagster looked like. So instead of getting a dumpster, which is really large, you can get a bagster. And that's what we just used here. It's also less expensive and you just fill it up. And for us, our one main level, it was I think 600 to 700 square feet, was all fit in that one with all of the wood pieces and everything else that we needed. So that was perfect size for us. All right, thanks for watching. If you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and be sure to follow me on all my social media, which will be listed below. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments, and make sure you check out the next video where we install the floor and do the trim work and finishing and all of that, so you can see how this project looks at the end. All right, see y'all next time. Bye.